Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. This week, we are covering Biden's big week, including a compassionate visit to flood-ravaged eastern Kentucky, as well as a couple of huge legislative wins, how those wins put our two senators, and actually every Republican Kentucky has sent to D.C., on the losing side of the ledger, with some extremely ugly votes from Senator Rand Paul. We are excited to bring you a couple of very remarkable guests. We'll have Tommy Adams joining us in the campaign corner. He is the Democratic nominee for the 73rd House District, Clark County, and some of Fayette County. He's taken a little time off the campaign trail to help with the Eastern Kentucky search and rescue effort. We're going to check in with him to hear why he's running, his plans for Frankfort if he gets there, and then we're going to discuss one of the most critical voting blocks in November, young voters. We've got Stephon Moore, the president of the Kentucky Young Democrats, to chat about that issue with us. And then we're going to close with our call to action. So should be a full hour. We'll try to keep it to an hour. We always try. Sometimes we go a little bit over, but we'll do our best. Before we get into it, we want to just check in and make sure you're ready to help turn Kentucky purple, right? Team, we are a red state right now. We are the kernels of truth. I can't lie to you. But I think our people know that we're getting a raw deal from the GOP supermajority in Frankfort. They seem to think their primary job is to stop Andy Beshear, take away his power, block his each and every move. But Andy's popular, way more popular and better known than those yahoos. So we have got to connect the dots and fill in the blanks for folks. If you want a legislature that works with Andy, not against him, works for our Commonwealth, not against it, we need your voice and your vote. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky. It is easy. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you spend time on social media. Just make sure to like and share and comment on our content. Help us with the algorithm gods. If you like what you're hearing here on Kernels of Truth, give us a thumbs up, leave us a review, share out the show. But now, my favorite part of the show, checking in with the co-hosts. So let us know who you are, where you are, and what's your protest sign today. And you there on the internet, if you're watching, go ahead and add your comments, what your sign would say. I'm Aaron, coming to you from Childsburg, a lovely deed restricted community in Lexington. My sign says end the filibuster. That is what I want to protest today, is the filibuster. And my favorite non-buster, Kimberly, are you there?
I am here. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing, Aaron? My protest sign says today, I wish that everyone could just get along. That would be my protest song. And sign. Can we all just get along? I think those words came from the infamous Rodney King. Can we all just get along?
That's a lovely vision, Kimberly. I'm there for it. I like the vision of us getting along. Unfortunately, we can't. We have an incredibly divided society where the idea that the president is, not able to just steal documents is a very inflammatory idea to half our country. And everyone's really pissed off that, they dared to go after the documents that he had taken. So at any rate, I like the idea of bringing people together. And I think in some of our stories today, we are seeing some examples of that, which is pretty exciting. So we're going to do our news of the week. And of course, we are a Kentucky political show. So we have got to start with the Kentucky political news, right? So this is number one thing. Biden had a really big week. He's really, he's having a pretty big month, honestly. And that's been a point of contention on this show among some of our co-hosts. But he was here. He was here Monday. The president and Dr. Jill Biden joined the governor and the first lady Beshear. Really important visit. He showed up. I think that he beat our senators to actually seeing the impacts. But he got on the big plane, got onto Air Force One, came to Lexington. I think the mayor got to meet him when they got off the plane, and then headed over there to Eastern Kentucky and to see what had happened with those floods. And he did what he does well, which is, I think, showing that just honest compassion. He did a really kind of compelling commitment to our state, acknowledging that, he'd been there to Western Kentucky not too long ago, unfortunately, and with the tornadoes, and now with the floods in Eastern Kentucky, and the fact that, Kentuckians don't want to ask for help. They don't like the idea of getting help. They want to just help, maybe their community and each other. But he's like, look, you're Americans. I don't care if you're Kentuckians, you don't want to take it. We're going to be here with you. We're going to help you. We're going to stay as long as we need to, and it's going to take a minute. So that can't be an empty commitment. This is going to take months, if not years, to build back from some of this impact of these communities. And I think that felt very genuine to me. So it was great to see him in the region, committing to the region and its recovery. But beyond that, he also got chunks of his agenda through the Senate, past Joe Manchin over the past few days. He just signed the CHIPS Act to jumpstart U.S. high-tech manufacturing. This is one of two pretty rare bipartisan victories that he's gotten the past week. They also passed the PACT Act to expand veterans' health care, to take care of veterans that were impacted by things like Agent Orange, burn pits in the Middle East deployments, toxic drinking water from a Marine base. And of course, the biggest victory, the one that I think most people have been talking about, was the absolutely partisan Inflation Reduction Act. So this is much of the Biden climate agenda. It's an expansion of healthcare. It allows prescription drug price negotiations with Medicare, which is going to save an amazing amount of money. It also enforces a corporate minimum tax of 15% for enormous corporations, making sure that folks like Amazon can't pay zero in taxes. Also bolsters the IRS to go after wealthy tax cheats. Really important stuff. Big, significant deal. Puts us on track to meet our international climate commitments. So that matters. Bolsters our clean energy production. And it really does push the needle on EV domestic manufacturing in a real way. So electric vehicles are kind of on the way. They are the future of transportation. The only real question is, will they be built in the U.S.? Will the batteries be processed in the U.S.? Or will that all be owned by China? Right? Will we go from the kind of Middle East frying pan into the Chinese fire in terms of domestic transportation reliance? And this bill really, those twin Ford battery plants, the other EV manufacturing facilities that are coming here in Kentucky, these big announcements, lots of jobs, they just became critically important for Ford and other companies to meet the domestic manufacturing requirements of this bill. The fact that this Inflation Reduction Act actually does pay down the deficit, that's a pretty big deal. There's a lot to like about this bill. Is it perfect? Nope. Lots of less than ideal elements. There's carbon capture technology, which is supported despite it being fairly unproven at scale. Requires offshore oil leases in the Gulf of Mexico. We didn't get all the tax changes most Democrats supported, but most importantly, it got done. Despite reservations from Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, they supported it. Someone soror voted for it to break the tie because not one single Republican would take action on these critical issues. So, you can blame Dems for not getting everything that you wanted to see in that package. There's a lot of the kind of, the support for things like, I think, student loans or issues like other types of home health care. Didn't get everything, right? But it got a lot. And the reason it didn't get everything is because Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, for sure. But they were not the only reason. There were, 49, 50, it's 50-50 Senate, so 50 Republicans who wouldn't lift a finger and vote for it. So this was reconciliation, which is a budgetary process which allows important legislation which has clear impacts on federal expenditures. Those can move forward without being allowed to be filibustered. So remember my sign from earlier, the filibuster is used on pretty much every other single piece of legislation that moves through Washington, D.C., which means that everything requires 60 votes to overcome that filibuster, except for the pieces of law that do not allow a filibuster. All right, so that brings us to insulin prices. So more than 500,000 Kentuckians have diabetes. Kentucky ranks 7th highest in the U.S. for diabetes prevalence. more than 1 in 4 insulin dependent people ration their insulin due to the cost of it. It's just sky high. It's gone too high. It's big pharma is making a lot of money off of insulin, which is outrageous. There is a law in Kentucky they passed last year. The session actually did something useful. A law to cap prices to just $30 a month in Kentucky, but that's state regulated plans. So less than 1/3 of Kentuckians are on a state regulated plan. There was a provision in the Inflation Reduction Act that capped federal plan prices and capped private plan prices. The parliamentarian struck the private plan element, which means that the private plan element was allowed to be filibustered. So it would have taken 60 votes to cap insulin prices at that reasonable level, and it didn't get done. So that's Biden's big week. I don't know, Kimberly. I just wanted to take a breath here and see what you think of that week, of that, the work that's been done and what's been accomplished by the Biden administration and the Democrats in Congress.
Honestly, I can truly say that the needle is moving very quickly. All of us see this as great progress for a lot of the things that the Biden administration promised us during the campaign. I think it's wonderful, and I hope and I pray that it will continue. But knowing people in her own state like Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell, you just sometimes you're waiting for the shoe to drop, and you want to be happy, you want to be joyous and join in with these accomplishments. But then they have terrorized us for so long that it's just like, what are they going to do next? They can't do it with their leader, which is Trump, pleading the fifth today when he was disposed with the attorney general in New York, and a lot of his fervent followers are leaving him as well. So we this is great. I hope it continues, and I agree with you, Aaron. Let's go ahead on and trash the filibuster.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get rid of that thing. All right. So the great thing about this, this really big Biden week is that it actually directly translated into Rand's bad week. Rand and, of course, Mitch McConnell, because Mitch McConnell's the Senate minority leader. So, anything that, it's, of course, zero sum in politics, right? But there were the two bipartisan victories, which were a pretty big deal. But Rand didn't go along with those. Rand, of course, voted against the CHIPS Act. He apparently wants China to continue to eat our lunch in high-tech manufacturing. Rand voted against veteran health care, that PACT Act. He said he might have voted for the expenditure if we cut foreign aid by the same amount. That was his solution. He also thought it was outrageous that veterans could get health care for things that they didn't prove were from their tour, right? So the fact that they might have gotten the cancer from something else besides the toxic burn pit, he thought that was outrageous, and the veterans shouldn't get that kind of care. Rand Paul proved once again what a just raging jackass he is. And then, as I mentioned before, right? So the Republicans were allowed to filibuster the insulin price caps for private insurance plans. So of course, Rand Paul voted against that insulin cap. So really, really a bad week for Rand Paul. Voted against taking action on climate change, voted against putting any sort of minimum tax on massive corporations, massive and wealthy corporations, voted against the IRS being able to go after wealthy tax cheats, voted against the CHIPS Act, voted against veteran health care, voted against capping insulin. Really, if Charles Booker, you needed new things to run on, it's like, here they all are. Here's a reminder that back in DC, Mitch and Rand are not working for us. They are working for, I don't know, wealthy big pharma, and the idea of cutting taxes everywhere for everything. Anyway, so those are my stories. Now I know that Kimberly's got a bunch, and we do want to get on to our awesome guests. But Kimberly, you found some fantastic short stories to share with us.
Yes, I found a story that's actually very encouraging for Kentuckians, and that is It's a $150 million investment that a company called Kinergy is going to collaborate with. The name of that is Connexon, and they're going to come together to transform counties for this super fast fiber internet to homes. They're talking about 57,000 homes, 14 counties, and 7,200 miles of this great super fast fiber to the home. So if you would like to know if your county is one of the 14 that they're going to roll this plan out to, you can always go to Connexon, connect.com, and that's ConnexonConnect.com. And it will tell you if you're one of the 14 counties. But if you're not, don't fret, my pet. They're going to be rolling out something as soon as they get this done and see how it goes. The second thing that I thought was really, really funny is I was reading about, President Biden coming to Kentucky and doing his due diligence as the leader that he is, going to Eastern Kentucky and consoling and encouraging the residents there of his commitment for them to have all of those things to be taken care of, such as I heard about insurance claim problems, anything that they need to get their lives back and back on track. But there was a press conference with our great governor, Andy Beshear, and President Biden. And I think that Annabelle is going to be putting that footage in the comments because it is hilarious. But you will see how our governor is so he's just savvy with what he does. And President Biden is coughing and coughing. He's coughing in his hand and he's coughing and coughing. And Andy Beshear, he's talking and he's like this. And then all of a sudden he's like, and he's still talking because our president, as we know, just got over COVID and he was doing a lot of coughing. I would have probably moved to the other side of the room just to be safe. But it's just one more instance of how great our governor truly is. Now, the next thing, there is this little thing email that I get in my emails every day called Kentucky Fried Politics. And I love it. It's only like one or two things on there a day, but I love reading it. And one of the articles was about the Republicans truly, I don't know where they're getting this stuff from, but they truly believe that they can beat State Senator Dr. Karen Berg. They are chomping at the bit to get any portion of Jefferson County that they possibly can. So keep your eyes out on that. But polls are saying that Dr. Karen Berg, she's ahead in the polls. So I'd rather go with that. Because she's a wonderful state senator and very cognizant of her constituency and very cognizant of our health issues here in Kentucky. So we need to keep her on board, most definitely. She is an actual medical doctor, MD. Unlike Rand Paul, he's not a MD, okay? So we're just going to say that. Also, straight from the governor's office, it says that Skillcraft is to expand their operations in Hebron with an $8.4 million investment, and it's going to create 14 quality jobs, meaning these jobs are going to pay an exorbitant amount of money. So just to let you know, today, Governor Andy Beshear, he highlighted the continued momentum of the state's metals and manufacturing sector with this announcement. So once again, that's our governor doing his job. And also from the New York Times, there was breaking news today that says that the U.S. inflation has slowed to 8.5% in the year through July. A reprieve, they say, but not a conclusive sign that price increases have turned a corner. But you know what? I'm an optimistic person, so I'm going to take that little information right there and run with it and think to myself that things probably won't get any worse than what they are as far as inflation. Back to you, Aaron.
All right. So those are some important stories. Thank you for sharing them. Thank you for finding them. Karen Berg, troubling to hear that the polling is tighter than we would want to see it. I think, depends on when those polls were taken. I think Democrats are doing better right now than they have been. Mitch McConnell admitted that the Senate is not looking like as much of a jump ball as it was just a few months ago. So, but I think that it's fair to say that, it's probably going to be a tough year for Democrats. History says, but I don't know. History's weird, right? We just saw what happened in Kansas. I think there's a lot of people who don't like the fact that the Republicans seem to be mostly concerned about the election of 2020 and lining things up to ensure that democracy is not is a little more in question than maybe it had been. It turns out democracy is not a deal breaker for Republicans. It's more just about power. And I think what's really telling from my perspective is that they just don't have anything they're for. Right. That Democrats are working hard to reduce inflation. They're working hard to ensure that women's health care is protected. They're working hard to bring down energy costs. They're working hard to decrease healthcare costs and get more people healthcare coverage. That's clear. You look at what they've been doing. They've been doing everything in their power to increase domestic manufacturing. Where are the Republicans? They're just voting no on everything. So.
Can I also say this, Aaron? This is something else that has come up. And I was looking at the military channel. I don't know if anybody else looks at the military channel but me. But I was looking at the military channel, and the FBI is really staying on this, that right now, since they did the raid of Mar-a-Lago for information that should have stayed in the White House anyway, that there were a lot of individuals, even individuals that were involved in the January 6th attempted coup, that they are really, really raring to go and using their guns. So I'll keep you all abreast of that, but I do want to leave you on a good note that the FBI is onto it, and they're doing everything within their power to stop these militias and stop these groups that do want to use their guns to shoot and to kill. It's rough out here in America right now, but I'm going to tell you something, Aaron. I don't take anything for granted anymore since Trump was the so-called president.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely seems like Trump is, clearly a backlash from the fact that we seem to be moving towards a more open and compassionate society, more kind of a less racist society, and then he's given everyone that kind of clear permission to just be your worst self. At least on one side of the aisle, which is really troubling. All right, we're going to move on. We've got some important stories. I did want one little corrections corner. As much as I do not like Rand Paul, as much as I want to blame him for every ill that happens in DC, he is an MD. He's just not board certified. So he is an MD. He's not a board certified ophthalmologist or whatever the heck it is, the eye doctor.
He's not for real then to me.
Well,
I'm not gonna, I'm getting my surgery done on Monday, right? And my doctor has certifications from here to Childsburg. That's a real orthopedic surgeon, right?
Yes.
If you're not certified, okay, you went to high school, you didn't get your diploma, you're not graduated from high school.
I'm just saying, we're the kernels of truth, so we will bash Rand Paul for all legitimate ills.
And next Wednesday, I may be okay. I might be a little high,
He's
but
he's not doing the surgery though, right? You know, Rand Paul is not going to be let into the operating room.
I hope not. I hope to God not. But also next week, I want to revisit that less racism in America. I want to revisit that with you on the truth of what's really going on at this time.
Oh yeah,
Go
no.
ahead.
Just to be clear, I just said that there was hopes with the election of Obama. People were like, "Oh yeah, maybe we're less racist." And then the backlash was Trump to show, no, actually, we're always as racist as we are in America. We just sometimes we hide it better. All right, so but yeah, let's talk about it for sure. We do need to move on because we got two amazing individuals that we do need to talk to tonight, and they're, I'm sure, rolling their eyes, waiting to get in the queue here.
What?
So most importantly, elections are happening. We are not far away from our chance to have the Rand Paul retirement party. It is 89 days until that election is over, and lots of other elections, and arguably, some elections that I think you can have a huge influence on. Some of these local races. So we've made a commitment. We're going to have a candidate on each and every week on Kernels of Truth until November 8th. And today we're very fortunate to have with us Tommy Adams, who is running in the 73rd district. And that is Clark County with a bit of Fayette County as well. I think I could actually throw a rock and hit some of the precincts that are in the 73rd district. I shouldn't do it though, because there's a lot of, beige vinyl siding that I would probably hit if I did it. All right, Tommy, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Howdy. Thank you for having me on. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yes. Well, hey, so I know that you're all in on this race, but it did seem like maybe you took a minute off the campaign trail over the past week or so. I don't know if we've got the image. I hope we can show it. But tell us what you do when you're not like knocking on doors and shaking babies or whatever.
Never shake a baby. Well, actually, I wanted to be on the show earlier a couple of weeks back, but I was traveling back from getting my wilderness first responder certification, and it turns out put it right to use when I got back. I'm a member of Wolf County Search and Rescue, and we were called to action to help the folks affected by the floods immediately. The morning of, in the early morning hours, our team was called out, and I joined them a little later in the day, and it is a mess down there. And honestly, the pictures that we're seeing are oftentimes taken from a main road and not the folks up in the holler. And one of the things I wanted to say is the picture that you showed of the president and the governor going out there to meet the folks down there. That building behind them in the photos that were shared on the media where they held the press conference, that was underwater right where we were leading rescue missions just down from Jackson on the 15, and then right behind it, the bridge that they walked across was underwater. And you'll see some X's on the buildings behind them during the press conference. Our team put those X's on those buildings. We were right there, and those folks still need a lot of help. This is just the beginning of a long process, and beyond search and rescue work, which we do have a mission this week to continue looking for the remaining missing individuals. But beyond that, we need to keep giving those people support, and it's going to take a while.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one thing I think a lot of people will give the governor credit for, right? Just he moved immediately to start up the funds so that people could make donations and could support our communities. And, all these folks like, Charles Booker, who did a number of trips to help support those communities to go there on his own. Rand Paul, of course, stayed in D.C. and criticized Charles Booker for doing that work because, that's what Rand Paul does. He just stays in D.C. and votes against aid packages for those folks.
The people of Kentucky, time and time again.
Yeah, for sure. So, tell us a little bit, so that's, the search and rescue stuff, which is really inspiring and so important. But, what kind of got you to want to get involved with politics? What's your backstory there?
Great. Well, I've been involved in politics since I was a child. I've always wanted to be involved, but I kept telling myself for years that I just wasn't ready. I needed more experience, or I needed to wait until I knew enough. And it turns out that the folks that are running for office and that are currently our legislators and elected officials, well, they don't know enough and they shouldn't be in office. And I am kicking myself for waiting as long as I have. And I am a teacher. I'm an educator first and foremost. I've been teaching at the college level since 2005. That's what I do. That's what I believe in, and that's what I want to fight for. I was called to run for office because I felt like I couldn't effectively advocate for my students once they left the classroom. And I want to be able to bring my voice to a larger audience and fight for the people that I care about. Teachers have been the most important people in my life forever. And I need to stand up for them. I need to fight for them. And I can't sit back any longer. Yes, I do volunteer with the search and rescue team, Wolf County Search and Rescue, and I volunteer in my community, and I'm an active member of my area. But I need to do more, and that's why I'm running for office.
That's so awesome. Well, I'm going to throw it to Kimberly in a second, but I want to just talk a little bit about who you're running against, right? So Representative Ryan Dotson, who I think is he's relatively new to Frankfort, right? But he jumped into the fray by co-sponsoring bills to limit Governor Beshear's power in a pandemic, trying to lower the age for concealed carry permit from 21 to 18. That was one of the bills he felt passionately enough about to co-sponsor. He wanted to make sure that trans kids can't play sports with their friends. He wanted to make it a crime for employers to ask about their employees' vaccination status. Really just a winner. And I think how can you beat an agenda like that? No, seriously, what are your thoughts about what he's been doing there?
I think, honestly, he lacks imagination. I think that he had an opportunity to come into Frankfort and pitch policies that could help his community, and that's what he decided to do. And you left out trying to and succeeding in cutting unemployment benefits for a lot of folks and targeting people who needed our help the most, and plenty of other things. But here's the deal: I'm running for every Kentuckian, and I mean it when I say it. You don't have to like me. You don't have to agree with me on everything. But when I'm in the room, I'm fighting for you, no matter who you are. And I can tell you without reservation that our current elected official, Ryan Dotson, is not representing everybody in his district and definitely not representing everybody in Kentucky.
Well, what about those, 18-year-olds that want to get their concealed carry permit? He's representing them really well. All right, so Kimberly, what do you got?
Got a Mom's Demand Action bracelet on right here, by the way.
Nice.
I'm
Nice.
How are you doing tonight? So
Hi.
nice to meet you. The question that I would ask is you've done great work in Eastern Kentucky, and I really admire all of the volunteerism that you do. That is so important, just being a human being, I think.
Yeah.
But when you say represent everyone, right now we have these challenges with the Roe versus Wade. We have an attorney general that couldn't do his job, didn't want to do his job, and AG Merrick Garland had to come and do his job for him. We have a state secretary that was going to run for governor, is going to try to run again for state secretary. So what are some of the things that you are doing right now and that you intend on doing to try to course correct this sinking Titanic here in Kentucky?
Well, great question. You actually are touching on a lot of important things, and I'm sure we don't have enough time to hit on all of that, but let me tell you this. I am running to join our super minority, right? That is what I am running to do. And as a lifetime holder of minority opinion, sometimes I'm going to be quite comfortable speaking my mind no matter what. I will speak for women's rights. I will fight for women's rights. I will not sit quietly as rights are stripped away from our fellow Kentuckians. I will not, right? Every one of the issues that you touched on, it's unthinkable that would be the priority, that those would be the priorities of somebody seeking office. And so Daniel Cameron, another story altogether. But at every point if there is a camera, if there is a microphone, if there is a Facebook post, I will be out there talking to people and shaking hands and telling people what we need to do to make a change. But here's something that I think I need to mention now based on the questions that you guys gave me. And that's, I think my district and I think Kentucky doesn't want what Daniel Cameron's putting out there. I don't think that they want that type of government. I don't think they want that type of restriction on their freedoms. I really don't. And I don't think that they're going to stand for it when they're given the opportunity. The thing is, they need to know that choice is on the ballot. And they even need to know what district they're in, because mine just changed. 5,500 new voters through Lexington and Fayette County that don't know who the representative is. And so I think that once we make those connections, and with your help, the help of this great program and getting our information out there, I've shared my information in the feed, and I'd love to get my TommyForKentucky.org, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter out there for folks to connect with me, because we need volunteers. We need your voice out there, shaking the hands too, connecting with your friends and family, getting the word out so that we can actually stop these actions at the state level.
Awesome.
It needs to happen.
Awesome. I can't agree more. I will say this, I know that Childsburg is in that area. More than happy. Let me know when you're knocking doors in Childsburg. I will come and knock doors with you, and make sure that folks get know who they're currently being represented by, and that they are if they're down with that, then too bad. But if you aren't really that excited about those types of votes and that type of leadership, that there's an alternative for sure. I think it's really important that people know that. I think it's really important that you just get out there. I think that, because people don't know, and, put a nice, put a face like yours, stories like yours, your commitment to teaching, your commitment to, public service, whether it's the, search and rescue or the stories you've seen in Eastern Kentucky, like that stuff, it all matters. It's all important. And I think people want to be inspired by a leader. I think you're well on your way to kind of have some of those elements to your story, Tommy, and good luck on the campaign trail. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. And if you ever want to have me back, I'm around. Please connect with my campaign.
Absolutely. We will make sure that all those are shared in the comments, all your different ways of linking up with you. But thanks again. And
and share. Tommy Adams, State Representative Tommy Adams. Share.
We can do it if we have
all
help.
the way
So
out.
we're going to need
Thank
help.
you.
Absolutely.
He's so nice. I wish I could vote for him.
Thank you. Tell your friends.
I sure will.
All right. So we're now moving on from Campaign's Corner. Really exciting that we've got, I think one of the most important demographics in the November 8th election. It is hard to dispute that, young voters can make the difference, right? So, we know that, their turnout could, as folks have said, sink or swing the Democrats in 2022. So we thought most important voice in that conversation of kind of elevated youth turnout and whether we can make it elevated in 2022 would be leaders at the state level for Kentucky Young Democrats. We got Stephon Moore, who is the president of Kentucky Young Democrats, and we're really glad to have him with us this evening. Stephon, how are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. Hanging out with Aaron Viles and Kimberly Cecil Jones on Progress Kentucky. So, doesn't get better than that, right?
I don't know that it does, but I'm
I sure does.
I don't think so either. Thank you all for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Kentucky Young Democrats are a storied institution. They've been around for a long time. There have been a lot of leaders who've come up through it and gone on to do great things. And so congratulations on becoming the president of Kentucky Young Democrats. What does it mean?
How about this? Wait a minute.
Okay.
How about this? The first Black president of Kentucky Young Dems. We got to tell the story. We got to tell the history of what has happened. And maybe I'm a little biased because I love Stephon. He's like one of my little brothers. But
I appreciate the love always. I mean, listen, like many things in America, things have been, skewed towards one demographic. right? And so as time has moved on, the Young Democrats, obviously, young people tend to be ahead of the curve with things, and so I became the first Black president, elected Black president at the beginning of last year, and so really an honor, a privilege, obviously a responsibility that I don't take lightly, and I have a great team of folks around me, so it makes it great. So
That's awesome. So what tell if one of our viewers say isn't like a true blue Democrat, but is just somebody who's progressive and doesn't know about the institutions of the Democratic Party, tell us a little bit about what the Kentucky Young Democrats are. What do they do? Why should we care?
Sure. So, I mean, the shortest and best way I would describe it, Young Democrats are a group of folks that look to increase activism amongst young people and participation in the process, right? Obviously, we want to drive up voter turnout amongst young people. If you look at a lot of the campaign staff and volunteers and folks that are kind of leading the organizing, a lot of us tend to be in the 18 to 35, 36 year age range. And the story in Kentucky, I want to make sure I tell this: young people are running for office. Young people are getting on the ballot themselves, making sure that they organize their friends and family, and take it to some of these extremists. Kind of let them know that young people just, like, a lot of the decisions that are being made, young people have to live with, right? We have to raise our children in these environments, and so we should be on the ballot at every level, and young people are getting out and doing that. So working to obviously provide those people with resources, just expertise, also, volunteers, and, some of us will host fundraisers every now and then, and just looking to support the next generation of leaders in the Democratic Party, but also, elected officials and leaders in the state. And so that's how I describe our mission. We are obviously, Young Democrats, but we try to create partnerships and work with other organizations that are not necessarily partisan, to let them know that we're here, and that we can be an avenue for young people to be and stay involved. And it's a totally volunteer organization as well. So we tend to have a lot of fun, because that's how you keep people around and get things done at the same time. So
that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about like those ideas of getting more young voters to the polls. Like, what kind of stuff are you doing, or what do you think people should be doing generally, right? Because we know that the Democrats' chances go up with increased young turnout by and large, right? Unless there's maybe third-party options or whatever. But by and large, younger voters tend to be a bit more progressive, certainly than the older, wider demographics that are represented so much in the voting rolls.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if you look at what happened in 2020, youth participation in that election in 2020 nationally actually went up about 11%, right, from 2016. And so you're seeing a growth and increase in youth participation. Young people tend to be social. Relational organizing, I think, is very big when you talk about what can you do to increase turnout amongst folks that are in large part busy with a lot of different things, right? Like, we're raising kids, we're going to college, we're starting our careers, we're doing a lot that takes our attention away from, hey, we need you to go to the polls and vote, or hey, we need you to come to this random thing and volunteer for somebody and knock doors or make phone calls. It's a lot easier to say, hey, we need you to tell 15 friends, right, people that that we, how important this election is, right? You need to tell people that, Republicans want to essentially lead to more deaths in hospitals with this abortion ban that they're trying to force down our throats. We need to tell people that we need to expand access to universal pre-K, and that there's a war on Louisville happening at the State House, which makes no sense at all, right? It's not good for Kentucky. It's not good for Louisville. It's not good for anybody. And so telling those messages to folks that you already know and that you trust, and may even love or like or hate that day depending on what's happening, is very important, and that's what I would encourage everybody to do. We're also, obviously we organize specific actions for young people to do and take together. We're going to be putting together some text banks, some phone banks, so folks can stay active and stay involved in some of the state legislative races and federal races this cycle. But, outside of that stuff, talk to your friends, talk to your family, let them know that things are important this cycle.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's easy for, people to just kind of write off politics, right? Because it does seem like, oh yeah, they just all sides talk and nothing really changes. But I think if you look at the examples that we just listed at the top of this show, what actually has been done in DC in the past week or month, some very significant legislation has been passed, has been signed into law, and it's stuff that and this show and other shows, they like to knock Biden. There've been folks who are like, oh man, Biden shouldn't run again or whatever. And I get that's a fight we can have later. But in terms of like what happens in 2022, it's like, does Biden have a chance to do more of those things that they've just done, or are we going to just completely handcuff him? You think that DC didn't deliver on enough things for that you care about if you're a young voter and you care about climate change, you care about choice, you care about these things, right? Like the idea that you're going to stay home and just hand over DC to Republicans, where you're going to guarantee that none of those things are going to get done, as some kind of way of like punishing the power and the party in power for not doing enough, is like I don't get it. But I feel like that's the thing that's out there. And Stephon, we need you to tell us what we need to do to encourage these folks to stay involved and get involved, to make sure that we don't just turn everything over to the Republicans, because that just terrifies me.
Yeah. So, my goal is always to just be as honest as I can. Right. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that I was disappointed, that we didn't get some of the bigger components of the Build Back Better agenda, universal pre-K, some student loan cancellation, things that are really important to young people around the nation and also in Kentucky. By contrast, right, we also have 2 senators who voted against veterans benefits for folks that have, fought for our country and are facing health complications because of burn pits. Right. And it's a very specific thing, very logical thing. And a thing I think we can all agree, right? Folks who have sacrificed and fought for this country need to be respected and need to be supported, and deserve those benefits. And we have senators representing us, right, who are voting against things like that. Right. They're voting against like increased access to like baby formula. Right, they're voting to support people like Vladimir Putin in basically wars that are essentially some of the most immoral decisions that you can make are being made over there in Russia. And we have congressmen and Thomas Massey, and I know you all talked to Matt Lehman last week. We also have Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell who are supporting those things. Not to mention these crazy abortion bans that are happening all over the country in the wake of the Dobbs decision. And so, this is an important election, and I would encourage young people to make sure that they are aware of what's at stake. It's not, we are all unhappy about things, right? I think I can make that statement pretty confidently, but we all need to make sure that we're going out there and that we're voting and holding politicians accountable, who are just ignoring Kentuckians and essentially don't care about people. So,
yeah, we got our work cut out for us. I'm glad that you are on the scene, though, Stephon. Kimberly, do you have any questions to leave with?
Of course I do, but Stephon, I always get this little bitty window. Okay, I'm just saying. But I don't have a lot of
Take
questions,
your
but I
time.
want people to really know who you are. Okay,
Sure.
so I feel better doing that because I feel like this proud auntie, so to speak, because I remember when you were interning for Congressman John Yarmouth. That's when I met you. And I just have always been very impressed with you. And yes, you've always been very honest, transparent. You have stood up for causes, not just for the Young Dems, but for everyone. And you know that you're on the short list that we want to see you run for something really soon. You know that, right?
I hear that. I hear that a lot. So I mean, listen, I always want to be as helpful as I can. So we'll see what happens. But right now, I'm working for Matt Lehman, as you all know, trying to beat Thomas Massey. And before that, I was with Charles Booker's team on his U.S. Senate campaign. Two of some of the craziest members of Congress, Rand Paul and Thomas Massey, represent Kentucky, and so I'm very happy to be in those camps and making sure that I'm doing what I can to get rid of those people. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll see what the future holds, and I appreciate you all the time. You know, I like you mentioned, I spent 2.5 years in Congressman Yarmouth's district office, and every time I saw you, it was always a breath of fresh air and lots of love and warmth, right? And so I appreciate everything you're doing, and you've hosted a few of these live shows, so keep your foot on the necks.
Okay. I'm going to stick by him, Aaron, because he might be getting some real money one day. And I love his fiance as well. I love Jasmine. That is, did I hear her scream? You want to talk about a breath of fresh air and a very, very brilliant, intelligent young woman. She was working on campaigns as director of operations, things of this nature. And I mean, when I saw them together and I found out on Facebook, did I not call you like the auntie I am and say, why
Yeah,
didn't I know about that? What's going
yeah.
on? But I was so happy. And you know what? You should be happy with a young lady like Jasmine. I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
it's a coincidence. I happen to love her too. So, you know, she's she's pretty great. She is working hard for Stacey Abrams right now, managing her voter file.
All
Um,
right.
so yeah, and I mean, and also a law student, no big deal, right? So she's super busy and does a great job supporting me. So yeah, I mean, obviously we all love her, but and she's also national committee woman for Young Dems. So you know, come join Young Dems, y'all. We're having fun. Lots of great people.
Wait a minute.
Um,
Can Aaron and I
No,
join? I
no, we
mean,
cannot.
like,
We have aged out. We are not.
wait a minute. I'm only 32 years old. I
You
can
are a
still
liar. Corrections corner right over here.
yeah,
So what I will say is we appreciate the work you're doing in both your kind of volunteer capacity and leading Young Dems. Really important that your success with the Lehman campaign. Good luck with that. I think Massey is just an embarrassment to our Commonwealth, and I really hope you all can take him down. But obviously, good luck to all of us. We're all in this together. We got to support one another. Really appreciate kind of what you bring to the table. Congrats on being the first elected African American president of the Kentucky Young Dems. That's clearly a sign that Kentucky is waking up a little bit. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. I know Kimberly always likes to school me that no, we are still very racist here, but I think it's we got our challenges, we'll just say. But there's things that give me hope each and every day, and you're one of them, Stephon. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you. And I'd be remiss, we were able to speak. I was able to speak at the Bean dinner in Marshall County on Friday ahead of Fancy Farm, along with the first Black Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, Charles Booker, and the first ever Black Democratic Party chair in Kentucky, Coleman Elridge. So we're certainly making strides in that realm, but obviously a lot of work to do. We saw the DOJ last week bring charges and arrest the officers that killed Breonna Taylor. thankfully, finally, and is doing an investigation into LMPD. And so, there's a lot of work to be done still around the rest of the state, and in Louisville for that matter, when it comes to racial equity and social justice and injustice, right? So happy to be doing that work as well in everything that I do, and appreciate you all's supportive voices there. So.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your week. Thanks again for joining us. We'll stay in touch. And again, we don't have that many days until Rand Paul's retirement party. Hopefully, it's also Tom Massey's retirement party. There's a whole lot of folks we should be retiring in 89 days. So everyone get your calendar out. Get your work plan together. What are you going to do with those 89 days? We know Stephon's going to be super busy. The rest of us need to stand up and help out as well.
All right. Thank you all.
Right. Take care.
Bye.
All right. So we're going to throw it over to Kimberly to just lead us out of here. Thanks again for a wonderful episode, Kimberly. Always appreciate it. You're putting the time and the attitude in to make sure that the kernels of truth bring the attitude. We've got the attitude each and every week.
I just love Stephon and Jasmine. I wish she would have gotten on the camera just for a second. But, I just want to say today, thank you to our wonderful guest, Mr. Tommy Adams, who I feel has a good shot. And, to my God kind of like nephew, Stephon Moore, and his beautiful, beautiful fiance, Miss Jasmine. So did you get that, Aaron? She's working on Stacey Abrams. I mean, like, whoa, right? That's like big time stuff. Did you catch that, Aaron?
I did catch that. I heard that. Working on her voter file. That's awesome. Stacey Abrams.
We know some people, don't we? We know some people that know some people.
We know some people that know some people. That's almost like we know the people.
Exactly. So let's just do our call to action really quickly. We've got about 225 people that have signed up for the petition. All of the information will be in the comment section below. And we need you. Yes, we need you to fill out this thing. We need about 500 people. And, it's kind of like, it's like a stalemate. So we need to move the dial on it. Okay. So that we can go to the media and say, we've got all of these people and they are the worst of the worst. I mean, just terrible, horrible, no good. So please be included in that. Petitions get a lot done. You may think that, it doesn't matter. Everybody else can do it. No, we need you to do it as well. It always makes for a better situation. There is power in numbers, right? So also we will be back again next week with our awesome guest, Mr. Hank Linderman, yes, who is running for Congress in the 2nd District against Brett Guthrie. You know what? We got a lot of people on the ballot, right? We got a lot of people on the ballot. We have to make sure that they get elected. And we'll have a special co-host next week, the Kentucky's 2022 Teacher of the Year, Willie Carver. We always love Willie Carver. He's been on our show before. I loved his frames of his glasses. Like, he is so stylish too. And he's going to be coming back to share his perspective on teaching in Kentucky and why he didn't go to the classroom this year. Disclaimer, as always, Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4, and is affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voters Engagement, known as CAVE. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate. Yes, we hope that we're educating you, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Production this evening was by my little sister, the best of the best, Miss Annabelle. I just love when she's able to be with us. Just love that girl. a lot, and we're so very proud of her. And thank you, Nate Orshan. As usual, we got to give him a shout out each time. He's the one that, you know, was the producer and creator of the music that you hear when we're coming in and when we're going out. You can't hear us dancing, but we do dance. Learn more about his songs on natosongs.com, natosongs.com. Some graphic content was given to us by Couchfire Media. Go to couchfiremedia.com to see more of what they're offering. We have audio podcast. If you can't look at us and the boss is around, stick your ear pods in, listen to what we're talking about. And if you happen to miss it from the beginning tonight, do not fret, my pet. You could always go back and replay it. Okay. So I know you are like, Kimberly, you're stumbling your words tonight. I got a lot on my mind. I just got hired as an executive again for Macy's and having surgery on Monday. So keep the positive energy going for me, please, ladies and gentlemen, as I go underneath the knife on Monday. Now, it may depend on if I be back Wednesday. It just depends. But I want to tell you this, do something nice for someone this week. I'm telling Aaron that he's a great host. And that's doing something nice this week. You know I love Aaron. Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you to everybody watching. Do something nice for somebody this week. It'll make you feel better, make their day. And until then, same bat channel, same bat time next week. And have a good rest of your week.